What is a ghost? What is a UFO? Is it time we rethink what these entities might actually be? I think absolutely yes. I recall an episode of Doctor Who in which the Doctor travels back to the 19th century. And in this house, he encounters what they believe is a ghost. And it turns out that these ghosts are actually tiny molecular aliens that can mimic a spirit. And so that made me really think, when we think about ghosts, we think of them in a spiritual nature. Is it possible that they could be something more, like an interdimensional traveler, an extraterrestrial being, or even a naturally occurring biological life form that exists here on Earth? And when you look at the cases of alien abduction, they mimic a lot of times a haunting, strange things happening at night, these beings, these entities appearing in the bedroom at night, finding scratches on your body. Could these ghosts or spirits, as we call them, be extraterrestrials that are concealing themselves and using this identity as a deceased person to be able to communicate with us or observe us, much like when you go out into the nature, you would hide behind the duck blinds to sit in and observe biological life forms, right? So could it be possible that these ghosts, as we call them, are actually extraterrestrial beings that have the ability to mimic their surroundings? Much like we see with other life forms here on Earth, like octopuses, which have the ability to mimic any surrounding it may encounter. And it not only changes color, but it changes physical patterns on its body to appear as anything it is in front of. So we have to think, could these extraterrestrials, ghosts, have the ability to blend in, and that this is a way of them observing us, or potentially they identify and mirror something that we feel, or that they feel we can communicate with, and that we could have trust with, and that they can't come to us directly, but they can come to us indirectly through. And now a lot of people might say, we have video, photographic, and audio evidence to suggest that these spirits are something spiritual. But yes, we do have evidence, but that's only suggesting that these ghosts may exist. It's not giving us any definitive answers about what they may be or what their compositional makeup is. So yes, we do have proof that these entities may exist, but we don't have any knowledge or any idea as to what they might be, even though people say definitively that these are spiritual or these are spiritual beings. We cannot say for certain whether these are or they aren't, or could they be something else. The same thing with UFOs. We have video proof that they are there, possibly, because we have videos of UFOs and potentially sightings of extraterrestrials, but we have nothing that says specifically where they come from, what they are, how they travel here, how the mechanics of their spacecrafts work, or anything about their technology or origin. So we have to speculate, but it's interesting that we only speculate to one idea and one theory when we don't know definitively the answers. And I think if we can find its compositional makeup and we can figure out the origins of ghosts or extraterrestrials, then we can prove their existence. And I think this is a pathway to proving that they do exist, is by figuring out what they are instead of just trying to document that they're there, which we know they're there. We need to understand what they are. And I think that's where paranormal research needs to change. Instead of just getting this idea that they're there, we need to understand them, and we need to figure out more about why they're here and where they come from, because that can give us a clue to maybe a better understanding of how the universe works and what's happening in the universe and things like that. So I think that we cannot jump on any one theory or conclusion until we fully understand what these. And it's interesting when we talk about aliens or extraterrestrials, right? We think of them being from another galaxy or another planet. But is it possible that they themselves could be interdimensional travelers, or some sort of time traveler, or even a biological life form that exists here on Earth as well? And could they be hiding in the oceans, underground? We have stories from the Native Americans, from the early people of the Mesoamericans, who talk about these underground beings, the ant people, the lizard people. A lot of these Mesoamerican tribes and cultures talk about them originating from underground, from a cave, and that they came up from this cave and came to the upper world here on Earth, and that's how they got here, and that's sort of their creation story, or how we came into existence. And when you look at all the reports of USOs, unidentified submerged objects, there are these flying saucer, disc-shaped saucers, triangle-shaped saucers that are coming up from the water and often seen flying near the ocean and descending into the water. And we have to think maybe these aliens aren't alien to Earth, they are alien to the upper Earth, or where we live. And that perhaps these aliens, as we like to call them, the Greys, the reptilians, perhaps they live underwater, or they live underground, and this is how they are easily able to get around and hide themselves and conceal themselves. And when we see these objects up in the sky, are they potentially going underground or underwater? And this is how they can escape quickly and appear and disappear, because they are not traveling to another galaxy, which would be very challenging. They're not traveling light years away, but they're actually just traveling nearby to the oceans, or to nearby caves, or access to the Earth underground, right? And that they have been visiting the Earth to figure out what's going on here on upper Earth, on the Earth's crust, because what affects us will ultimately affect them, right? Because we form this symbiotic circle. So they want to know what is happening here on the upper world and how that will affect them, and sort of how they could one day potentially maybe interact with us and maybe come to our world and communicate with us. So it's interesting that we keep a closed mind when the scientific method tells us that we should be testing multiple hypotheses over and over again. And I feel like if we just stay one-dimensional and we think of ghosts in just one way and we think of UFOs in just one way, then I feel we will not get sufficient evidence to prove their existence or to understand what they might be.